Why all the problems that you see in the world today rest on the shoulders of two groups of people: the atheists and the Christians who believe in the rapture. We've been developing technology. Let's first explain why. What's wrong with these two groups of people, and what do they have in common? What they have in common is a lack of foresight and a denial of the long term consequences of their present day actions. The atheists don't believe in God, don't believe in the Father. And so they lack any form of objective morality. What they seek without believing in God, without believing in an afterlife, without believing in objective morality, there is only your preferences and you as a mortal being. The problem with the atheist is they don't see any problem with transhumanism, not what we've been talking about as far as trans over the last 5 or 10 years, but transhumanism, something that's been discussed for more than 100 years. They see no reason, more morally, why they shouldn't why it wouldn't be considered morally good to become a transhumanist. Someone who has used the material world around them, their human slash demon ingenuity, to research and develop these technologies that would make life oh so much better for all people for a very small period of time. They wouldn't see the whole of the world being connected in a hive mind, working to colonize other solar systems as a bad thing. They wouldn't see using these technologies to cure cancer, to make the blind see, to and then there's the Christians who believe in a rapture that also make absent long-term consequences and inevitable outcomes. There's the Christian who believes in the rapture and has seen this technology developing around them, seeing it as what will be a bad thing, but because they've made those long term consequences absent from themselves because they've fallen prey to the devil and believe that they won't have to deal with the consequences themselves, that they will be raptured or taken away or escape what will be. But they don't. They, like every other human being on earth, will have to experience the tribulation in full. Not at the beginning, not right before, not right in the middle of it. No. In full, we will all experience what will be. I base nearly everything that I believe and I feel, how I feel about who's president, how I feel about this political policy, how I feel about this particular technology, how I feel about this particular person, how I feel about this particular event, how I feel about, base it on the end of the equation. What comes after the equal sign? Since 2013, I have believed there will be no rapture. Hold on. For the whole of my life, I have not believed in a rapture. I was born into a Protestant, brick and mortar Christian family. Your American Christian family. And it just seemed weak or outright wrong. So in 2013, I willfully, as much as you can, right? Because there's things that you just can't forget, you can't unlearn how to blink, how to control your heartbeat, your heart rate, your lungs from breathing in and out. Those things, they just happen. But most of what we have fed ourselves and have been fed by others can be forgotten and unlearned. And so in 2013, I whitewashed and bleach bit my brain. And from that point forward, made it a point to only rely on what I could experience with my God given senses, would only know what I had actually experienced with my God given senses. And because I was only going to rely on what I had actually experienced, being what I know, I realized that I needed to experience a whole lot. I needed to be willing to put myself in situations and in positions that most don't. You see, we like feeling like we're a part of something. And if you are the lone voice in the room, that's quite uncomfortable. But it's only when you subject yourself to being the lone voice in the room that you start to actually hear people. And after subjecting myself to all of this world's boxes, I came away knowing these three things. Over the last 13 years, I have learned these three things are the only things in all of human history that remain true today and will always remain true. The Father is true. Humans are not meant to be the Father. And humans need to rely on the Father. Everything after that, it's not easy, but it's very, very, very simple. We cope with words like nuance and subjective. But even then, we know that we're lying to ourselves. Problem is, you've lied to yourself for so long that now you believe it's true. But when you started to say things like that, there was a still small voice in your head that said, nah. But your flesh cried out. And so, in order to excuse your own flesh, we found nuance. Nope, objectively true. There is a Father. Humans are not meant to be the Father. Humans are meant to rely on the Father. And so I base how I feel about people, events, things, technologies, all of that up against those three objective truths. Does this encourage my people to believe in the Father? Does this encourage my people to believe that they are not going to eventually be gods? Does this eventually, does this persuade my people to believe that they need that Father for guidance, for encouragement, for wisdom and understanding? Or alternatively, Do these people, places, and things encourage my people to make the Father absent, believe they will be as gods, and believe that there is no need for them to rely on the Father because, hey, they are going to be gods? Or does this encourage my people to believe that, yes, people are going to make God absent? Yes, they will believe themselves to be gods. And yes, they will forget that they are meant to be reliant on the Father. But guess what? The Father is just going to pluck you off of this planet full of these evil people and save you. The Father saves you once. And there's only one way to be saved, and that's through belief in Yahshua. That's through belief in the Son of the Father. You obey the Father and trust in the Son. Because if you don't, so who is Dylan Thomas Tedder? He is one who works to obey the Father through the trust in his Son. Not these technologies, not other people, because they will all always fail you. Fail you. There are lots of bad people who do good things. I was that person for a very long time. I believed in helping others. I believed in putting others before yourself. I believed in delayed gratification. I believed in these things, but why? Because I'm just better than people. No, no. I never gave credit to that still small voice. I thought that still small voice was just me. But then you live long enough and you understand that you make a lot of mistakes. Typically, when you tell that still small voice to shh, my point is, all of us, every one of us, is just as susceptible as the next to be tempted by the devil and away from the Father. No one's less guilty. No one's more innocent. No one's, nope. We are all flawed. All. None. Right? That's what the book says. So, who is Dylan Thomas Tedder and how does he feel about this or that or this or that or this or that? Well, it's simple. Very, very simple. You see, I like the Amish because they do this before they incorporate any form of technology into their community. They ask two questions. Will this bring the family closer together and will this bring the community closer together? If the answer is no, then less and less nowadays, but at the inception of it, it was like, nope, get it out of here. So that's how I feel about people, places, and things. Are these things that will bring the family closer together? Are these things that will bring the community closer together? And are these things that will bring humanity closer together with the Father? More dependent on the Father, making the Father more present in our everyday, all the time lives. Will it do that? Will they do that? Will this do that? So I think if you just look at the world around you, you asked that question, you would know just how I feel about almost every single thing. It's not always easy, but it's simple. Oof. We are being distracted. Our culture, our cultures, and societies, countries, nations, the minds and hearts of the whole of the earth are being distracted. We've been being distracted. You see, www 666, the downstream effects of introducing the internet to the world, I think, have done more than any other technology other than the Tower of Babel in Genesis 6 to make God absent, make humans believe they can be gods, and make humans believe they don't need to rely on that God because that God is absent and we ourselves can become. They lied to us and we believed them. These things all happened close enough together that someone with eyes that are open could see. There's a definite, not even correlation, folks. It's causation. It is causation. Causation. Yes. This is going to bring the whole of the world together with the World Wide Web. And what has it done for the last 2.5 decades except for isolate and insulate every single human being into an echo chamber that the moment, the moment they're introduced into a room where they're the lone voice, now we got to give them pills. We got to give them this. They need therapy for the rest of their life. No, 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 no. See, where once there was the town square where if Johnny decided to say something like, let's hump toasters, Billy, Tommy, Jimmy, and Jack would all go, hey, bud. But now he can say, I want to hump toasters on the internet, and he'll find 1,000 people who say, awesome. And now that poor soul goes through life. And that is in no way for anybody to go through life. You end up like Joe Biden running for president, and no one in your family going, please, Joe, don't. We love you. So for 13 years, I have subjected myself to every ideology, every worldview, I have traveled, I have experienced, I have stood face to face with thousands of people. An open book, willing to tell everybody anything, being perfectly good faith. And yes, those are the three truths. God is real. We're never going to be gods. You don't want to be, I promise you. And we need God. And so, if you ask yourself about whether the internet was going to make those things better, encourage those things, social media, what about that? What about artificial intelligence? Do you think it's going to do that? And so, when I tell you that we're going to end up subjecting ourselves to an artificial intelligent antichrist, living in pods, isolated, insulated in our own echo chambers, working our fingers to the bone to gain in stature through recognition, not through work or producing products of quality that will bring humans closer to God, make God more present in their lives, make humans more reliant on God. No, I think that's it. I think if we get over our pride, I think that's what all of this stems from. The atheists and those Christians who believe in a rapture. Well, I just don't deserve. Why? Are you somehow better than these other people? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Well, I just. See, there's your problem. See, I can believe as a believer that I'm saved. But I also know that I'm just as susceptible as every other human being who's ever lived, living, or will live. And what's really, what the paradox is of that? Is now I get to be the person who knows everything. I'm right about everything. Everything? Everything. Because once you know what comes after the equal sign, everything that comes before it, you'll know. You'll have the discernment to be like, that's not good. We should stop. We really should just stop. But we won't. As a species, we won't. We never have. It's like the kid, the child who's about to touch the stove or stick the butter knife in the electrical socket. They're just going to do that. It takes the father reaching and stopping the child from electrocuting or burning themselves. It's always taken that. We never were just like, bing, light bulb, we should stop. Nope. God, the Father, intervenes and saves us from ourselves. But it's not done for this group or that group or this group or that group. It's done for His creation to move forward. Sometimes, in order for Sometimes you just gotta stop the bleeding. Other times, the infection is so bad, we gotta. So every now and again, God's gotta cut off a certain subset of people. Sometimes almost everyone. Everyone? Everyone. And why was it that Noah, his sons, his wife, and their wives? Why was it Noah? Well, it wasn't because he was this righteous man. If that was the case, hey, we've had righteous men. If it was just because people were sinners that, hey, that's why they need to go, well, then I think we're all willing, well, not willing, but we're all uh, guilty. Yeah, we're all, there's a different word, better word for that right now, but just as vulnerable to being guilty, right? But no, it was because Noah's bloodline was the last that hadn't been corrupted by the technologies of the time, by the Nephilim. In the garden, there was the serpent and the forbidden fruit. And once human had partaken of that technology, separated from God, then you're in the days of Noah. And the whole of the world has partaken from what was that day's modern day forbidden fruit. All but 8 individuals. And the rest of the whole world, goodbye. And here we are now, living what I believe are the modern days of Noah. And so, if we see the through line from the garden, days of Noah, and now, day 0, right? Day 0, day 2000, and here we are, day 6000. 4,000 years removed from the whole of humanity subjecting themselves to modern technology. And here we are. And here we are with instant communication with the whole of the planet being ubiquitous. And so when I decided, and so when I figured out all those years ago that there are 3 objective truths, I thought at the time, even then, an artificial intelligent antichrist. And so, if you're talking about this person or that person or this person or that person, and you're not fixated and focused on the technologies that are being developed right now, there's a reason for it. The reason is you would stop. But hey, call me crazy. And then I'll say this to you. You would not have signed that Patriot Act if you knew that in 5 years they were going to give you an iPhone. And that, my friends, is the way it is always done. So that's who Dylan Thomas Tedder is and why I believe what I believe. Take care. I love you all and be blessed.